Hey everyone, I hope that you're having a good second day of class. This course will go quick. We're already on day 2 of 14 in our intersessions, so I really appreciate all of the hard work that you've put into the course thus far. I'm enjoying getting to know you through your introductions on the discussion board as well as your work on Twitter and on TikTok. Please don't hesitate to reach out with questions whenever you have them. A few of you have asked questions about Twitter. And as I noted in the reading tweets assignment description, I do recognize it can be and is problematic in lots of ways. I've enjoyed the kinds of conversations that we're able to have there because of the short nature of what you can write. It pushes us to write concisely if we're going to be specific, and allows us to have kind of shorter, more focused conversations around the reading. So that's why I like it. But again, if you are uncomfortable with it, you don't want to be there, you don't want to create an account, I totally understand. And I've created a discussion forum where you can post your reading tweets. So the assignment is the same whether you post to Twitter or the discussion board, but you'll just do it in whichever location you're most comfortable with, and you can respond to one another there, whichever location you're at. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions. I really appreciate all of the thoughtfulness that you put into our initial Twitter assignment in Unit 1. So remember, Unit 1's Twitter assignment is different than what you'll be doing Units 2 through 6. Units 2 through 6, it's for commenting and pointing out what was most significant and interesting to you in the readings. Unit 1, you're identifying the difference between primary and secondary sources and sharing examples of those with us and asking questions about them. I think you've done a great job of locating sources, done a great job of thinking about primary sources as those that were created closest in time chronologically to the events that we're studying. Secondary sources, of course, are those that compile primary sources together, read them critically, compare them, and ask questions and make arguments in order to put together a historical narrative. So secondary sources have done the legwork. They've done research. They've tried to put together pieces of the puzzle about the past to present us with a story about the past. So we evaluate them differently, right? So with secondary sources, we're thinking about, has this author, researcher, have they thought about their sources critically, or have they taken the things that people in the past have said at face value? It's important that they take those things critically, that they think about how and why some people might have certain biases about what they're saying or what they're presenting, again, depending on what kind of sources they're using. And so we need to kind of see in the narrative that the author has done their homework, that they've done that kind of evaluation to present us with their argument and their interpretation. Primary sources, of course, we need to think about what was this person's relationship to the events they're describing. Is this like a reporter from 1914 talking about the Mexican Revolution and the border? Is this someone writing a letter to family members? So they're kind of sharing a different kind of perspective that they never thought would be read publicly, right? We have to think about the audience they're writing for, what kinds of information they're deciding to share, what they're deciding to withhold. Read those things together with many other sources from the time frame to get an idea of what's going on. So for that reason, then, that's why I'm saying in some of the comments I've been making on Twitter and on the discussion board about what is history, that's why I'm pointing out that primary sources actually tend to be more biased, potentially, than secondary sources. Bias sometimes has a negative connotation. We think if something's biased, we need to throw it out. Not the case with history. All primary sources contain bias. We have to read them critically so that we can understand what the bias is, and then from that, understand what information we can take from that source and use to understand the specific past moment that we're looking at. So we might use a source like a newspaper source to add context for the time frame that we're looking at to help us immerse ourselves in what it might have been like to live in the past, whatever specific time we're looking at. We might use it for more specific kinds of details and information. Again, it depends on what the source is. Always have to read it critically, and always have to recognize that even though primary sources are closest to that moment in time, they are among the more biased of sources. So we need to find lots of them to get a fuller picture, to get many perspectives, and to better understand what was happening in the past. So as we continue our course, we will have some primary sources that are assigned. A lot of what we're reading is secondary over the next couple of weeks. So keep these things in mind. Ask questions. Think about, why did our instructor give us the interpretations that he did when he wrote this book, the textbook that we're using for class? Always be asking, always be pushing the envelope in that way. All right. I will leave it there. You'll get to know that I tend to get long-winded in comments, so I'll stop here. I hope you're having a good Tuesday, and I'll talk to you soon.